my name is Jocelyn Elise. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to go over the movie Bones and All, and I'm going to give you my review slash reaction. So let's get into it. Marin's haircut was inspired by Stacy from Silence of the Lambs. During the movie, she wears floral dresses to reflect innocence with a utility jacket that acts as a security blanket, but eventually sheds this when she gets close to Lee and even settles into a more polished style in the end. Lee's style is my favorite. It's not completely male or female, as Lee likes to wear pieces from his victims. He really takes the opportunity of free clothing to explore different styles. His hair was also modeled after disenfranchised people and drug addicts. The movie starts out with Marin. She goes to a sleepover she's not supposed to be at. Her dad has kind of these strict rules where he doesn't really want her just out and about, which would make sense if, you're kind of fatal to the general public. She goes to the sleepover, but before she does that, I want to mention something that I thought while initially, meeting her dad. Like when they get home after school, he's going to bed, and I'm like, dude, how can you sleep with someone who could eat you in the house? He actually locks Marin in her bedroom before going to bed. Just wanted to point that out. Glad I got to answer my question. Even when that lock isn't strong enough for me. No, thank you. She tells her she can't stay long, and she ends up biting her finger. As someone who hates bodily harm in movies, if you can get past this scene, then the rest should be cake.
Don't worry, there's nothing to be scared about, people.
However, I do have to admit to some prep work. I did look into what they would actually be eating in the film just to make myself a bit more comfortable, and this included maraschino cherries, dark chocolate, and fruit roll-ups. She comes back home, she slams on the door. Her dad is like, you have to grab whatever you can grab in 3 minutes. They move once again, like they have so many times. It's also kind of alluded to this being a consistent problem. When the movie first starts, her friend who invited her to the sleepover allowed her to know, you're not going to be in the yearbook, since, I want to say it was maybe a teacher told her several times, maybe 4 times, and she never got her picture taken, which you don't want evidence you were anywhere if you know you're moving town to town in general. No evidence. Because who isn't going to break out their yearbook and say, yeah, that's the girl that tried to eat my finger? Like, yeah, of course they're going to do that. Her dad finally ends up letting her know he has had enough. He leaves her a cassette tape allowing her to know information about her mom that she wanted to know, as well as why he was so strict with her, how he found out she was an eater. It ended up being a babysitter, and how he found out she was an eater, initially he thought, okay, someone hurt the babysitter and Marin, but Marin apparently had something in her mouth. It was an ear. And what really got me, he was like, oh, thank God she didn't choke on it. If my baby was chewing on someone's ear, I probably wouldn't want the baby anymore. This is so horrifying. Marin, since she was abandoned by her dad, I hate to even say it that way, but yeah, he abandoned her. She decides to go looking for her mother. Along the way, she meets Lee, who is another eater, who initially when she meets Lee is a bit rough around the edges. The next day they're eating at a diner. It's pretty clear from there that Lee his walls have been broken down, but Lee does allow Marin to know, when you're 140 pounds soaking wet, you gotta have big attitude, which is pretty funny. Lee ends up going to Kentucky with Marin because he promised his sister that he would be there for her, far as to help her drive, because their dad really isn't in the picture. He is dead. And I'll go into why later. Their mom is still alive, but Lee doesn't really like to be bothered with her. She just seems like a smotherer, just a bit of a smotherer. His sister, her name is Kayla, she actually was pretty upset with Lee. She doesn't understand why he's always leaving, and she wants him around. because when you think about it, Lee is now essentially, I guess, kind of like a father figure to her, and not just her brother, since her father is gone. Lee and Marin end up leaving Kentucky, where he's from. They're going to see about her mom, like see if they can find her. We settle at this fair, or carnival, rather. Marin has told Lee that she is hungry. Now, mind you, they do eat real food. You know what they really want. Lee decides to seduce a man, slits his throat in a cornfield. Marin is no longer really happy with Lee after she finds out that the man that was killed actually had a family. In my eyes, it's cool. He was a cheater. Don't like that. It's whatever. So once again, from there, Marin starts to become cold to Lee. They do end up finding the home of Marin's mother, but Marin's mother no longer lives there. Instead, she finds her grandmother. Her grandmother is not an eater, apparently. The family adopted Marin's mother and is just kind of separate. Like, they alluded to the woman knowing what Marin's mother was doing, but, or at least hurting people, because Marin flat out asks, has my mother ever hurt anyone? And the woman is appalled, like she doesn't know what's going on. And Marin allowed her to know, you'll never see me again. Like, I just want some answers. She does end up telling Marin where her mother is. Marin finds her mother at a hospital. Lee wants to, of course, be there for Marin, but she's still giving him the cold shoulder. Pretty sure she would have rather him have been available. This is the biggest crack in the movie for me. Marin is talking to the nurse, and the nurse is like, yeah, like, you know, she was aggressive initially being here, but she's chilled out. So they show a woman, you know, in her own little place. She has no arms. I immediately am like, okay, I get it. She cut off her arms because she didn't want to hurt anyone. Okay, cool, great. It gets deeper. Marin's mother actually wrote her a letter like 15 years ago. The nurse gives it to Marin, and Marin reads it from top to bottom. It's like you're hearing the letter, and it's like narrated by her mother. Marin gets to the end of that letter, and the ending of the letter basically says that it's curtains for Marin if she were to ever come see her mother, because her mother was trying to have her father really keep Marin in check. Marin is not with the dad anymore, and she ends up coming to see her mom, so her mom tries to take Marin out. Marin escapes. She's having this fight with Lee because of what just happened. Understandably so. But this is where it's really crazy for me. It is revealed that her mother did not chop off her hands. Her mother ate her own hands so she wouldn't hurt anyone. I don't know why that's worse for me. You can tell me if it makes a difference to you, because either way, the hands are gone. But yeah, I think it's worse because she ate her own hands. I just could not get past that. That's one way to do it. But I guess if she chopped them off, though, it's like, what was she gonna do with them? Like, give them to another feeder? So, to each their own. She's fighting with Lee, and Lee is like, you know, don't take this out on me. And he wants Marin to know that she is worthy of living, and her mother was wrong for what she did. But once again, Marin is still upset with Lee, so she ends up abandoning him, which breaks my heart. Oh, but I know she regretted that, because who does she run into? Sully. Sully has been following Marin from place to place. It's just the creepiest thing. And she's just like, basically, what do you want? Respectfully, what do you want? It's like he became, I don't know, kind of obsessed with her. Like, he knew Lee was in the picture, but still, it's like he really wanted Marin's company for himself. But Marin was not having it. Marin just wanted to move on. No Sully, no Lee, nobody. So a couple months go by. She runs into Lee's sister. Lee's sister was saying that she feels like he's stayed partly because, and this is in Kentucky, back in Kentucky. She's like, yeah, like, where is Lee? And she does meet up with Lee. Like, they reunite. Like, no issues. I mean, there really shouldn't have been. I mean, they linked up pretty quickly before. Like, why can't they make up, like, now? And Marin is just like, let's just do life together. Like, let's live normally. We can do this. And they do. Like, I thought Lee was going to give some sort of pushback on this, but no, they end up being super domesticated. Like, they get a place together. Of course, it goes downhill, but not in the way you would expect. So Marin comes home one day expecting Lee to be there as per usual. Like, they have their little routine down. Something on her bed, like a case or something. And next thing you know, someone covers her mouth. And guys, it's Sully. It's Sully.
Life's never dull, it was Sully.
He has a knife and he's holding her down on the bed. And he's like, oh, Sully's your friend, so you are not going to scream when Sully removes his hand. I was like, okay, but you have a whole knife. And she reminded him that, he was like, oh, I don't hurt people, yada, yada, yada. She also reminded him, like, Lee is my man. So Lee finally comes in there, like, it's hilarious because it's built up so much. It's intense because Sully has Marin on the bed and he got a knife on her, and then Lee comes around the corner and he wearing like this little cute little flowery shirt.
The way he came in Auntie's blouse just had me busting out laughing, but I think that has more to do with the slow-mo.
But when I tell you, he put in that work. He was about it. Lee ends up putting a plastic bag over Sully's head. He did not let that man breathe. Like, he did not let up. Marin ends up stabbing Sully a couple of times. Next thing you know, him and Marin are dragging his behind to the bathroom, and Lee puts him in the bathtub with him on top of him. That man was still trying to breathe. Sully actually rips the bag open from around his face. I mean, he just really was trying to survive. He finally did die. Lee is struggling to get out of the bathtub because Marin walks away. She's looking at Sully's items. Immediately, she's wanting to see, like, Sully has this, like, he cuts the hair off of victims and puts it in this long braid. It's weird. He gets in the room and just slides down the wall, like, just leaving blood. And I'm like, dude, like, this is your place. You messing up the place. Like, which is like, I didn't think anything of it. Stay with me. So he ends up being hurt, and it's obvious that he's had more victims because the rope that he initially shows Marin when they're in his home, it's like brown, and then there's some blonde hair in there. That makes it really obvious that he's had more victims.
I can't.
So Marin's like, look, dude, we gotta go. We can't have nobody coming up in here. We gotta take you to the hospital. But he's like, no. Like, no, Marin, I want you to eat me. And I'm like, you want her to do what? Oh, how did I forget this? Lee ate their father. Lee's dad was abusive. Like, the day that his dad disappeared, left, he hit Kayla and Lee, beat him up. Apparently, Lee ended up having a lot of blood on him. The cops held him for 3 days because they thought Lee killed the dad. And, yeah, he did, but he got away with it. Their dad was a jerk. Yeah, he let Marin eat him, which was so sad to me. I don't like getting invested into a love story, having the characters part ways in any shape or form, but it wasn't really graphic. how they did it, and they end with them being together. Take that how you want, leave you with a fond memory. Also, I want to just circle back by saying, in this case, I knew what I was getting myself into. This was meant to kind of be tragic from the start, from their condition. It's like, how can you have love? They tried. They really tried, though. They did. And I mean, they were doing great until Sully came up in there, wanting Marin to be his, like, partner that he does life with. I don't know. Like, just his companion. I don't. Far as the acting, I really thought Taylor Russell as Marin was incredible. She really was believable in every way. Timothée Chalamet was fantastic as well. This was definitely one of my favorite roles from him. I'm hoping he'll do more stuff like this in the future. He just did an amazing job. And he was producer on this, though, so I'm sure that comes with some pressure as well. But he killed it. No pun intended. Margaret Rylance was so creepy, so disturbing. No other way to describe it. Ultimately, the movie didn't exactly go where I expected it to, but that's not a bad thing. I'm really glad I decided to watch this movie. If you guys have seen the movie, I would love to know what you guys thought in the comments down below, so be sure to do that. Hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.